guys, my name's Richard Edmonds and I run CompanyIQ. www.CompanyIQ is a website that allows both private individuals and professionals to register companies directly with the Australian Securities and Investment Commission. And our website is registered with them as a licensed provider. Over the years, I've often been asked by our clients how companies work in Australia and how does someone that is looking to start a new Australian business go about it. So today I'll be giving you an overview along with an explanation of the terms and process involved in registering a business in Australia. So let's get straight into it. The Australian Securities and Investment Commission, otherwise known as ASIC, is the federal government body that is responsible, amongst other things, for regulating and monitoring companies in Australia. They keep a full register of every company in Australia, which currently number slightly more than $2 million to 2 million, and they increase consistently every month. If you want to know more about ASIC, their website can be found at www.asic.gov.au. The ASIC Corporate Registry Division has two main databases, ASCOT and DocImage. The details for every company in Australia is entered into the ASCOT database, and in order to change this data, a document needs to be lodged into the DocImage database. Think of it as an electronic copy of the paper trail. So ASIC love their forms, and their form numbers confuse a lot of new participants. For those that are interested, in order to register a company with ASIC, we need to lodge a Form 201, an application for registration as an Australian company. For the others, don't worry about it, as we take care of all the form numbers for you. So as you can imagine, ASIC require very specific data about where the company is to be based, how it is to be broken up or owned, who is to own it, and who is to run it. And then all this data is compiled into one of their Form 201s. Before I go on to explain how to complete a Form 201, I'd like to mention how the Form 201s can be lodged, as this addresses the role of intermediaries like CompanyIQ. Your first option is to go directly to ASIC's website and download a copy of their PDF of the Form 201. Complete it manually and lodge it directly with ASIC. ASIC only takes public 201s over the counter at their various physical offices. They simply don't take them electronically directly from the public. Also, on completion of your lodgement, ASIC will issue with a single piece of paper, the certificate of registration. They assume that you'll have all the other documents and registers that you're required to keep and maintain by the Corporations Act, and that you will have gained these documents from some other location. However, by using a licensed supplier such as CompanyIQ, you are provided with an intuitive web interface, automatic Form 201 generation, and an array of registers, consents, and applications and constitutions that are you actually required by law to keep. Over the years, I've lost count of the number of times I've been asked if we can generate our supporting documents for a company that has been recently registered directly with ASIC. The answer is always yes, of course, but it is faster and cheaper to run them from scratch. So for these reasons, today I'll focus on using the CompanyIQ website to register a company. So let's start by navigating to companyIQ.com.au. So this is what the front page of our website looks like. Very intuitive. Private users will come in at this location, and the professional users will sit down here. If you've been in before, you can go straight into a sign-in, or you can register on the first use. Alternatively, if you just want to browse and have a look, start by checking to see whether or not your company name is available. Click the link and enter your company name, your desired company name. Interestingly, the choice of company name, while it seems like such an innocuous decision, often provides the bulk of issues for these new companies. Section 147 of the Corporations Act declares that every company must have a unique name, and then Schedule 6 of the regulations supporting the Act provides significant details about what can and can't be used along with what is considered an identical name. Examples include the fact that plurals, spaces, and punctuation are ignored when running the comparisons. And as a result, S and Sun fabric would be considered identical to Sanderson's fabrics. I've always also been amused by the fact that Sir Donald Bradman's interest gets special protection under this regulation, along with the banks, of course. Given that there are already more than 2 million names in the database, sometimes finding a name that resonates with your business is available per ASIC and still available for a website as a domain name can be problematic. Often an aspiring new company owner will spend significant time bouncing between the ASIC company name lookat and the domain name registry before they find a perfect match for their business that is available at both ASIC and the domain name level. The CIQ website actually checks the domain name availability with ASIC, but you'll need to also use something like domainregistration.com.au or netregistry.com.au to check the website's domains if you're going to use one of those as well. Once you've settled on a name, we can get started on the form itself. So we go straight to the page, we pull up the availability, and we check a name. By checking this name, it's actually bouncing it directly onto ASIC servers. This particular one is available. If we view the details, ASIC said it is available, and it should go straight through. If we try something else, for example, CompanyIQ, and check the availability, it'll tell you that the name is not available, unavailable. So if we now go back to the name that I was after, we can start to register this company. This will step us straight into a wizard where we will collect the various parts of this company through to generating the documents, paying for it, and submitting it directly with ASIC. The beautiful thing about this is you can trial and you can see, and there's no commitment right up until the stage where you want to commit the document. What I've said to a lot of our people, a lot of our users is companies can be registered very quickly. However, they take around 90 days to deregister, and once they are registered, even if they've only existed for 10 seconds, we cannot take them back, and ASIC does not give refunds. This is to do with legal reasons associated with the fact that it may have entered into a contract, even though it's only existed for a matter of minutes. So we say to our users, only register the company when you are ready to go. So let's get down to business. The agent which we use to lodge this form will be CompanyIQ. We'll do that for you. Data preparation, today's date. Company use, you've got the choice of corporate trustee if you're doing a trust, self-managed super fund trustee if you're doing a trust. Most of the time, you'll be doing trading companies, stock standard. We don't want to use the ACN as its name, we want a specific name. What is the name? That should autofill from the previous page. New company 509 is what I've selected. Is the name company reserved? No, it's not. Is a manual review required by ASIC? No, it's not. Do we have an identical state business name? No, we don't. The draft name. If we get halfway through this document and we need to leave it for any particular reason, by giving the file a name, we can come back to it. So if we're missing a date of birth or a place of residence or something like that, it's a simple matter of not having to redo all the additional work and just select this form again. Jurisdiction. This is what state in Australia it starts in. Companies definitely are controlled by federal jurisdiction, but they start at the local level and roll out around the country. I'm based in Queensland, so we'll set Queensland, but it's wherever you're based. We proceed to the second page of the form, the type. What type? Now these are the tricky questions that you must get right. Most of the companies in Australia are proprietary limited companies. They're private companies. The other types are publics, and you definitely don't want one of those unless you know what you're doing. Limited by shares are the stock standard option here. Some 95% of companies in Australia are limited by shares. Make sure you get those two right. The ramifications of getting it wrong are hefty. Is this company a special purpose company? No, it's not. What legal elements? This is just a matter of how we'd like to present the name. It's purely a personal choice. Personally, I go abbreviated with no full stops. Governance. Governance are the rules that control the company. You have two options. You can adopt the Constitution, and we'll provide you with a succinct, about a 45-page document with all the rules that govern a company, how to appoint directors, how to remove directors, how votes are conducted. Alternatively, you can reuse the replaceable rules and dig the various provisions out of the corporation's law. If you're okay with legislation and looking at legislation, you can adopt the replaceable rules. If you're not and you'd like a succinct form of the rules, adopt a constitution. They're slightly more expensive as we have to pay the solicitors for the constitution, but highly recommend it. It will save you a lot of grief if you ever have a contest or a dispute within your company. Will you have an ultimate holding company? This depends on the structure of your company. If your company is to be owned by another company, you will. This particular one, I'm going to do a lovely little private company, so we'll say no. We proceed to page 3, addresses. Now the thing about the CompanyIQ system is that we use our people and addresses like Lego blocks. You enter them once and you can reuse them. It saves you transcription errors and time, as you don't have to continually re-enter the same information. So which address? I'll adopt a local address of 13 Elmer. There's one I've adopted previously. That will be my registered address. Now the registered address is where ASIC sends the correspondence to. The principal place of business is where the business will be based. Often a registered address may be a solicitor's office or an accountant's office. The principal place of business will be where you're actually conducting the work from. They can be the same, hence you can tick the same, and this can be your place if your place of residence if you're working from home. Again, lovely and simple. We proceed to the next part. The company officers. Who is to run the company? Who is to manage the company? Now, for an Australian company, you require a minimum of 1 Australian resident, a director and public officer. Corporate secretaries are optional. They're not required. So I'm going to set one up with myself, adopt myself from the database. Now, if I hadn't existed in that database, I would have just adopted hit the new button here and added my details. I'm going to set myself as a default signatory. That'll come into play later on. And I'm going to save the officer. So we've met the minimum requirements. We can see the notification up here saying that's been added successfully. We've met the minimum requirements of a single director and a single public officer, and I don't need a corporate secretary. I can add one if I like. In this particular case, I'm not going to. You can see them queued up here in the next table, so I'll proceed to page 4. Share structure. Share structures, we must think of them like a pie. You can cut up a pie any way you want it. If you have the whole pie, you have one piece of one piece. Simple algebra, 1 of 1. It is often simpler and cheaper to issue more shares when required than it is to transfer existing ones. So a lot of people say, how should I start my share structure? Under the old corporations law, it used to be that you had a maximum size of the company. This is the way the US works. Australia, on the other hand, simply keeps track of what has been issued. So in this particular case, we're going to use ordinary shares, and I'm going to use the lowest number possible. Since it's just going to be me, I'm going to give myself 1 share. I'm going to pay it to $1. I'm going to have nothing unpaid. If you have 2 or 3 or 4 intended shareholders to start with, you can simply set these up using simple algebra. If you use a number 10 or 12 or 20 or 100 shares here, you can get the required percentages. If you have 3 shareholders that are to hold a third each, then you will use 3 shares and give 1 each. And the question we often get asked at the end of that is, but how do you then allocate to a fourth if a fourth comes along? And you simply issue more shares. Later on, you can issue shares from the company once the company exists. If you have 3 shareholders holding 1 each, there's 1/3 each. By issuing a 4th share to a 4th individual, they will then hold 1 of 4. And through the concept of dilution, they have diluted their shareholdings from 33.33% to 25%. This particular case, as I said before, lovely and simple. 1 share, lovely and low. We go to save it. So now we simply save the share class. It queues it up, confirms, and we move on to the next part, which is allocating the shares. So we're now on this page, members or shareholders. We're going to give an individual, Master Richard, there he is, 1 share. We're going to allocate it. It confirms, sits in here in the form. It's equal as to the number of shares that are to be issued and the number that have been allocated. And we move on to the next page, which is the signatory and the applicant. The applicant we will make as myself. Today's date. Signatory, who is to sign the 201? That's me again. So here we have a little summary of this company, file name, type of company, the governance, registered address, principal place of business, the offices, the share structures, and the members, then the applicant, the signatory. We're going to proceed. That will take a second or two while it generates the documents on the fly. We can review these documents, Form 201, the director's first minutes, the director's consents, the application for shares, the share certificates, the public officer's consent, and the constitution. Or we can lodge it and review them later on. I'm going to proceed directly to lodgement. But these are the additional documents that I was talking about before. We pick a particular card, or we add a new card, and we process the payment. We wait for a moment while the payment process chews on it. We can get a copy of the invoice, or we save for us successfully later on. And now we can submit the company to ASIC. This will automatically send an electronic version of that 201 to ASIC. And now we've progressed to a page, which is our Forms in Progress page. And up the top here you can see Forms in Progress, Submitted Company Registrations. Over here you can see that our new company, 509, is lodging. And in a few minutes, ASIC will return with a response. So this particular company has progressed from lodging to transmitted to ASIC. And you'll see up here that every 30 seconds odd, we will automatically update the status of the company. Generally, within working hours, the response time from ASIC is somewhere between 2 and 3 minutes time. Outside of business hours, if the company requires a special manual check, it will be when they open up again. If it goes straight through processing, electronic processing, we stay within that 2 to 3 minute time period. So we just watch the status as to what happens to this particular company. This is a test account, obviously, so I've got all my previous ones in here that we've deliberately failed or transmitted and broken just to see what happens. Your account will have a single company at the top here. And there we go. ASIC has responded to our particular request and marked the company as finished. And what we are doing now is, in the background, the CompanyIQ database is filing all those documents and creating the register pages for this particular company. So if we sit on our hands for another 10 seconds odd, this company will be transferred into the full registers. And there it goes. So that's been filed automatically. New company 509 has been finished and completed. So we can now click on this particular company and go across to the full register pages. We land on the register page, which is a summary page. We've nearly finished the application for ABN registrations, which we'll get into later on. And here you can see our summary of our particular company, the directors, the public officers, the agent, the share structure, the members, and the recent documents. Coming back up the top, what's of real interest is if we go across to the archive for this particular company and we select the company certificate, we download a copy of the certificate and we can see there's our ASIC certificate This particular system has been used to register against the ASIC test servers so that we don't end up with live companies. Yours will not have test data down the side. Yours will have an ASIC live company registration, ASIC live certificate, and you'll be able to take this certificate along with some of those other documents down to the bank to create a bank account. So there you have it, how to register a company in about 10 minutes time with the ASIC using www.CompanyIQ. Thanks for your time. We'll have more videos coming up soon, and if you'd like to subscribe to our channel, stay tuned on YouTube. Thank you.